Hey everyone, I'm Erik.
And I'm Alex.
And first of all, thank you so much for the incredible discussions that we have seen on the medschool.it Facebook group about all kind of aspects of studying English language medicine in Italy. It's really fantastic. We love you guys for all the interest and enthusiasm you've shown in these programs and in the website. And today we're going to talk about the question:
how does a typical day look like for a medical student in Italy?
We're going to break this down into the preclinical years, which are the first two, and then the clinical years, which are the last four. I'll do preclinical. Alex is going to do clinical. The preclinical years. Okay, so there are basically three kinds of days that you have to deal with. One are days where you have lectures. That's from September or October through December, and then usually from about February to May. That's the school academic year. Your lectures are going to last somewhere between 4 and 8 hours a day. They are usually in the same classroom. The lecturers tend to come to the classroom, and you have your own seat. At least that's the way it worked in Milan. People sort of like colonized a little area of the classroom for the whole year, although some people did move seats from time to time. And you get about 1 hour and 45 minutes per lecture with about a 15-minute window in between, and about an hour and a half for lunch. And the lectures are usually quite traditional, using PowerPoint. Sometimes the professors will engage the students with questions and answers. You got to pay a lot of attention, take a lot of notes, and you have to be present.
I think to be present in these lectures is quite an important thing, because for me personally, I'm probably a more of, hearing type of person. So I need to hear this information. And I remember myself just hearing the voice of the professor during the exam, sometimes saying those the same things. And actually many of the exam questions, many of them, the professor expects to hear something that he was talking about. Mm-hmm. It might not necessarily be in the books, because actually the professors sometimes are also very involved in research, and then they teach on things that didn't yet reach the textbooks, and you get to ask about that in the exam as well, right?
Mm-hmm. That's great. So another great learning tool that we have, and another type of day that you'll have during the preclinical years, is your lab. Labs can be anything from histology, where you're checking out slides of like little parts of the human body at their most micro scales. That's really cool. It involves things like distilling human tissue down to its DNA, which is a really profound experience. In some schools, like in Milan, you have the opportunity to do a cadaver, which is just, for me, was like seriously one of the deepest experiences of like the decade of my life. And then you have labs in anatomy, where you're literally like taking apart skeletons or like wooden block versions of brains or shoulders or parts of the human body. So you learn that with a hands-on kind of feel.
Yeah, I also like those exercises where you can actually interact with all those bones and muscle and see like how they sort of react in 3D on those models we had in the lab as well.
Yeah, that's true. And also with computer simulations. The technology is getting really great with teaching anatomy.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. All those apps, I think, guys, you should really always be up to date with all those 3D apps available for anatomy. It really gives you like one more perspective, one more way of looking at things. But we'll get there later.
Right. So the other important kind of typical day that you have during med school is the days during the exam session. Exam session is basically whenever you don't have lectures and labs, okay? So that covers like the entire summer and your winter break too as well, and perhaps your spring break. And you have exams, for example, in January or February, and then you'll have more in June, July, often in September. And in Italy, remember, you can take an exam multiple times. So if you fail it the first time, you take it again. And that can be sometimes as much as 3, sometimes as much as 7. The point is, during exam session, what you're doing most of the time is studying on your own. And that studying can be 6 to 10 hours a day. It's a lot of work. Can't emphasize enough that medical school it's not an like easy ride,
Yeah, and I think people really don't get this information when they sort of apply to medical schools, because what you usually hear is like, oh yeah, you study really much in the medical school. You really like do spend hours and everything. But nobody really realizes the exact amount of hours you spent. And during the exam session, it's basically your whole day. You're basically, I remember myself going early in the morning to the library, reserving that table, opening my material, getting my books, my computer set up, and they're just studying. And you study as long as you can go, basically. And I'm not talking about being a stellar student. You have to study even just to pass. You have to study a tremendous amount of hours per day.
Yep.
I would say like 7 hours is the bare minimum you can get away with for just to pass the exams. And if you want to be good, then it's probably around 9 and 10. Of course, depends on how good you are at what you're doing, but still, just to get you some, sort of
perspective on it. So 1, sleep enough. 2, eat enough. And 3, be kind, supportive, and thoughtful toward your fellow students. If you follow those 3 rules, you'll be a lot of the way toward being prepared to study well. Okay, so now Alex is going to talk about the clinical years.
Yeah, so clinical years is like the exciting times, right, guys? So you were 2 years of those pre-medical studies where you're like exploring every single possible equation in physics, which has to do with everything in medicine, and now you basically get to the real stuff. And like I've mentioned before in the previous videos, you get to see lots of clinics in the morning. So before, like from 8 to maybe 12, you get to the clinic and you do rotations. You see patients, you see how they are being handled, you see what is it like to be a doctor, basically. And those are usually corresponding to the clinical topics that you have in that semester. So for example, if you have nephrology, so everything that has to do with kidneys, then you will also probably attend at the same time the nephrology clinic. And after you have your lunch break, you continue with the lectures. And the lectures also take like more or less most of the day. And so during the semester, you're busy most of your day with this normal sort of routine activity and lectures. When you arrive to this exam session, it's the same as the preclinical. You just study the whole day in the library. You get as much information as you can. You try to arrange things in the most efficient way and simulate those exams. But one thing I think it's important to say also is that the courses we're talking about and the experiences we have are very evolving, So medical schools are improving and changing things every year. They try to adapt their learning programs and make it more, make it better. And so whatever we went through might be already not that true for you guys that gonna attend those schools, and maybe will be totally different in 5 years when you'll be finishing. So that's just take it with a salt of grain, with a grain of salt.
With a grain of salt, yeah. I have done quite a bit of research into the new medical schools and also into the new curricula in the old medical schools. And in all cases, the schools tend to be moving toward more and more clinical involvement and earlier in the course and more patient interaction with the students. So we're excited about the future of the med schools in Italy. They're really putting together some amazing curricula.
Yeah. Okay, guys, then I think it was enough for this video.
Right. So check out our other ones and don't forget to subscribe here. There. And you can find us at medschool.it. You can find us on our Facebook group. Join and participate in the discussion. And hopefully someday you'll find us in Italy. Ciao.
Ciao.